You're listening to Hotepish with your host, Dwwann B. Intelligent ish talk, intelligent shit talk, where we balance the profound with the profane. Political satire, celebrity and expert guests, information and entertainment, conversation and solutions. Leave your feelings at the door.
Y'all, we are here live. Oh, got scenes disappearing. How y'all doing? We are here, and I am messing up some of my artwork here. Hold on. There we go. Yes. We are here live. Thank y'all for joining us. We're going to talk a little bit about recognizing Black culture and why recognizing culture is so important. Why culture is more important than politics. Why culture is more important than a lot of things that we put ahead of our culture. Culture is definitely more important than getting other people's approval. That's one thing that's in Black culture that we gotta get rid of. Waiting for somebody else to approve of what we're doing. When we the number ones, when we the ones that we are the culture of the world. Black Americans, we are the culture of the world. And as we get through this broadcast, I will prove it. I'm not just pulling this out my ass. We are the culture of the world, because American culture is what America sells to the rest of the world. America sells American culture to the world. Coca-Cola's no better than sodas made other places, but it's sold with American culture. What's American culture? The way Black people walk, talk, and operate. The way we get down. That's American culture. The way we talk. The way we get along with each other, the way we talk to one another, the way we dress, our food. See, one thing white America's done was they told us that we don't have our culture, while they rip off the best of our culture and then show us the worst of our culture and say, hey, look, Negroes, that's your culture. That bullshit over there. What's up to everybody in the chat room? What's up, Tasha? What's up, Kevin Bryant? What's up, Rashawn? What's up, Mr. Trey Day? What's up, Bosa Queen? Good afternoon. What's up, Remy? Yeah, we're here. We got to get down and just really talk about it. You know, what's our culture? Because we got a lot of dope culture. You know, we have dope cultures, black people. But we're always told that we don't. We're always told that we don't. And that's a lie. That's a lie. And it's important that we recognize our culture, because once we recognize our culture, we can't be lied to. We can't be diminished. We can't be talked down to. We can't be talked about. Starting off, I want to talk about why culture is more important than politics. Culture is more important than politics because once you have your politics together, once you have your culture together, your politics is easy. Your politics is easy. Part of the reason why I spend so much time on this show talking about our history and talking about black history is because the more we know ourselves, you know, the more we know our history, the more that gives cultural pride. Like, knowing yourself gives cultural esteem and cultural pride. You can't be bought off by, you know, other people getting benefits that your ancestors fought for when you know your ancestors fought for those benefits. Get your Hotepish coffee cups at hotepish.com/apparel. Y'all see these coffee cups? They dope as hell. Get one. Get two. Get one for the whole family. Shit. But when you recognize your culture, you can't be lied to, you can't be capitalized off of. I want to go in, and I'm going to get to the chat room a little later, but I want to kind of jump right into it and show how black culture is the undergirds American culture. And then we're going to get into more talking about the reasons as to why it's important that we keep it. Because, you know, a problem that we have here in America is we have other people, all these other groups come to America, and then the Europeans who've been here, who, you know, they, since the 1600s, they make their money off of our ideas, our inventions. We all know the history. Like, well, for those of you who don't know, I'll give some brief history. You know about how American inventions were most major things that America has made money off of, made big inventions off of, were things that black people created. You know, from the cotton gin, which pushed, because the United States of America wasn't the only place producing cotton back then. But then when them brothers created the cotton gin that picked the seeds out of all the cotton that Eli Whitney stole and said was his invention, that made America have the ability to produce cotton like 30 times faster than the rest of the world, which pushed the American economy ahead of the rest of the world. That's a black invention. That's what I mean by black culture, black invention. We have a culture of inventing things. We have a culture of making a way out of no way. We have a culture of when something's going one way and we want to change it, we go up into our cubby hole, we come out with some new dope shit that changes the way things are done. That's just black culture. But let's first start off by defining the word culture. What do you mean, Dwan, when you say culture? You always want, for clarity, you always want to, something I learned back when I was in debate in my major, you know, you always want to define terms. One major reason why a lot of people have issues and problems is you'll have a big argument over one thing, but one person sees the definition of what they're talking about as one thing, the other person sees the definition as something else. And so since both see the definition of the same word as two different things, they get into this big old argument and fallout when, had they defined the terms that they were speaking on originally, they would not have had to have that big old argument, because they would have known they defined fill in the blank differently. So let's start off with the definition of culture. Culture, the customary beliefs, social forms, and material traits of racial, religious, or social groups. That's definition A. Definition B. The set of shared attitudes, values, goals, and practices that characterizes an institution or organization. Definition C. The set of values, conventions, or social practices associated with a particular field, activity, or societal characteristics. For those of you listening on Spotify, not watching on YouTube, I am reading the definition of culture from Merriam-Webster's website. You know those motherfuckers that say they got the lockdown on what all words mean, you know. So I'm taking you to what they say culture is, and we're gonna talk about culture and why it's so important. Definition D, the integrated pattern of human knowledge, belief, and behavior that depends upon the capacity for learning and transmitting knowledge to succeeding generations. So here, you see the definition of culture. One reason why black society's been easily manipulated and we vote blue no matter who, and we allow people to come over into this country and use us as a footstool, is because when you have people coming over into this country, they're coming over with their culture intact to a group that doesn't recognize its own culture. And when you don't recognize your own culture, you don't recognize your strengths, nor do you recognize your weaknesses. And one part of black culture that I always like to talk about, it's a blessing and a curse for us, is, you know, we're very humanitarian people. We share with people. The culture of sharing is a black thing. Let me say that one more time. The culture of sharing is a black thing. We, being the culture that we are, we see other people in similar situations as ours, and we all like to come together. Other people recognize that about our culture, and they play on it. I say one of the major mistakes the Black Panthers made was this. People don't know the whole Rainbow Coalition, all that stuff. That came from the Black Panthers. And then Jesse Jackson took it, and then he ran and made a whole organization called the Rainbow Coalition, where we brought everybody together to defeat what we thought which was a common enemy. Which is, ethically, I think it's a great thing, ethically. I think black people's hearts are in the right place. I don't want to shame us for being this way. But I do want to know that that is a cultural weakness in the context of the society that we live in. We're not the dominant culture. The dominant culture is always going to undermine or overshadow, I should say, the less dominant cultures. Now I'm putting my cultural anthropology hat on. What is cultural anthropology? We're gonna get into it. Let's talk about what cultural anthropology is. This was my minor in college, cultural anthropology. Browser share. Cultural anthropology is a division of anthropology that deals with the study of culture in all of its aspects, and that uses its methods, concepts, and data of archaeology, ethnography, and ethnology, folklore, and linguistics in its descriptions and analysis of the diverse peoples of the world. Why am I reading that? There are whole fields of studies that come up with these words that we use. When we use words like dominant society, when we use words like cultural appropriation versus cultural exchange, these are all scientific words. So when we talk about the system of white supremacy, that's also a culture. You got to understand, because I hear people saying, we shouldn't say white supremacy. They ain't better than us. No, idiot. It's not about them better than you, being better than you. It's about describing the system for what it is. You remove yourself from any emotional attachment to these words and see them just as definitions to describe things in the world that we live in. And so when I use words like dominant society, that is the society, the people who, what they say basically is the law of the land. The people whose culture is the dominant culture, they're the ones who dictate the practices and ways of the world that you live in, basically within that country. In America, the United States of America is a dominant European culture, specifically Anglo-Saxon, specifically white Anglo-Saxon Protestant culture is the culture of the United States of America. That's the dominant culture. And so when we use words like cultural appropriation is when a dominant culture appropriates what's the sub-dominant cultures or the subcultures within that environment. They take what that subculture created and bring it in as their own. That's what cultural appropriation means. Basically, what that versus cultural exchange. Cultural exchange is when you have two non-dominant cultures exchanging ideas. So we're dealing with this from the aspect of cultural appropriation, where the dominant culture in American society appropriates the subcultures within the society and takes those things in as if it was their own. That's what we mean by cultural appropriation. Going back to what we're talking about here, we're going to go listing some black things that black cultures created and talk about how it was appropriated into the dominant society. The harmful aspect of cultural appropriation is this: it leaves the people that the culture was appropriated from with an empty feeling of not having anything. You ever listen to black people say, man, black people, we ain't got nothing. All we do is hate on each other. All we do is not get along. All we do is be late to the party. All black people do is go be violent. Look, niggas, everybody in here, we've all heard people say these things. When people say that, that's because they don't have any clue of what their culture is. And they're accepting the definition of their culture from the society that took the best of their culture and made it their own, while highlighting the worst of your culture and saying that's what you do over there. Cops, Love and Hip Hop, everything on Lipstick Alley, everything on World Star Hip Hop. That's your culture, black people. Meanwhile, the best of our culture is right in front of us, but it's been appropriated by other societies as their own, leaving those black people who are unaware of their culture feeling voided, feeling left out, feeling less than. In part of my work with children, I always teach culture. Because I always ask children my first session with them this: what do you think black society is? Then I play this game. I say, okay, this is what you see black society is. Most people see black society as this: we went through slavery. Martin Luther King came and gave us civil rights. We all better now because of it. Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player. And I'll cut you if you talk about Beyonce or Jay-Z, because they're the best black people ever. And That right there, unfortunately, is black history and black culture to most black people. Because all else they see of black culture is black people getting arrested, black people getting in trouble, black people losing their house, getting rich, getting famous, then getting accused of some sort of sexual impropriety. All they gotta do, all the think about this, all the sexual deviants that run the media. We saw in 2016 how many sexual deviants run this motherfucker and still got jobs in this motherfucker. All these sexual deviants who run the media, all they have to do is say, hey, that black person did something and fill in the blank sex act. And then that would change everything everybody ever thinks about them. And it'll throw everything that person did in the dirt. It's easy to be fooled by shit like that when you don't know who your culture is, what your culture is, and you don't understand the culture of the society that's projecting this shit onto you. That's what happens. John Henry Clark had a quote. I'm looking for it right now. I can't find it. But it was, I'm going to paraphrase a John Henry Clark quote. And I might put this motherfucker on a t-shirt. But there's a John Henry Clark quote where he says, and I'm paraphrasing, don't take my words literally. But he says, they have shown us the worst of our culture while taking the best of our culture. Black people only recognize generally the downsides of our culture. And every culture I'm not saying we perfect. Look, those parts of our culture that are down, that people go by, they're true too. But every culture has a dominant aspect and an aspect that they're not so proud of. White folks got Honey Boo Boo. But fortunately for them, Honey Boo Boo isn't depicted as a typical white person in white culture. This is another John Henry Clark quote that I like. To control the people, you must first control what they think about themselves and how they regard their history and culture. And when your conqueror makes you ashamed of your culture and your history, he needs no prison walls and no chains to hold you. Is that not true? Yeah, Carlito's way you see it in some comedian routines. Hell yeah, a lot of these old punk ass comics out here. Black people do this, white people do that, and whatever white people do is better than what black people do. Whatever black people do is the worst thing ever. And then the audience laughs. I'm so tired of them damn jokes. That's why I don't even go in comedy clubs like that. When I'm booked to do a comedy show, I go up there, I crack my jokes, and then I go stand in the back and smoke some weed. I don't be listening to them other comics. Most of these motherfuckers is jackass coons. At least the ones that get on TV, especially the ones that get on TV. They don't let the real niggas, because like in comedy club, one reason why I had a hard time on my way up in comedy was specifically because I wouldn't do that shit. When I talk about pro-black stuff, I was hella pro-black. The audience liked it, but these punk ass comedy bookers, oftentimes that made them feel funny. That's another thing in black culture we got to get rid of. You'll see a black person young coming up doing something that makes you a little bit uncomfortable, but instead of helping that person cultivate and grow what they do, you'll have older black people try to minimize what that young bull coming up is doing. That's different. And try to curtail it and try to maintain it and hold it and put it in its place. That's a part of black culture that we got to get rid of. Because one thing in black culture that we've been doing wrong is selling out the children. Always talking shit about what the kids are doing. Not helping the kids. Judging the kids. Man, back in my day, We did it this way. Nigga, back in your day, you was under the thumb of white supremacy, just like these little niggas is under the thumb of white supremacy. Back in your day, nigga, you was just as tamed as these niggas are. And the day before that, and the day before that, and the day before that. Because for a long time, we've been allowing these other groups to dictate to us how we should behave, think, and act. And we've been acquiescing to what they say, while our culture is what they taking and ripping off and selling to the rest of the fucking world. The shit black people feel bad about, the shit that we talk shit about what the young folks are doing, about what niggas do with their money. If niggas just do this instead of that, the rest of the world got pen and pad in hand, writing down everything that we doing, and then selling it back to us. I say this all the time. Black people got gold mines sitting in their home right now. If you got a black child, specifically a black boy, between the age of 14 and 24, whatever that little nigga, however that little nigga wants to dress, however he wants to cut his hair, whatever music he wants to listen to, you better put some motherfucking money on it, because that's what Coca-Cola's doing, that's what Pepsi's doing, that's what the NBA is doing. They all looking at black children, specifically black boys between the age of 14 and 24, to see what they into, see what they listening to, see how they walking, see how they talking, and that becomes the culture of the world. While niggas sit around and demonize it and talk shit about it. They making money off of it. Pull your pants up. Why black people always got to be wearing Jordans? Why we always got to be wearing Jordans? Meanwhile, you got the Asians over here making fucking Jordan shoe shops, boutique Jordan shoe stores. Lines all around the corner to get them Jordans. Why? Because niggas said it's cool. Because niggas said it's popular. That's why. Nigga. I'm gonna tell you something else. Let's go down the list. Let's start talking about black culture. Let's just recognize it for what it is right now. Thank you, Lovelace. Like, share, and subscribe to this. I appreciate y'all for saying this. Like, share, and subscribe. You're looking at black culture right here in some ways that the rest of the world is taking and made billions and billions of dollars off of, while we're still consuming what we gave the world. Why do I have this Raiders jersey up? Y'all know I don't really fuck with football like that no more. Ever since 2016, it wasn't necessarily about Colin Kaepernick, but I don't like the way the NFL talks to black people. I don't like their attitude. So since I don't like their attitude, I don't watch them anymore. Still doesn't mean I can't teach a lesson off of what they do. Bo Jackson era Raiders is when NWA came out with during that era is when NWA came out straight out of Compton, when they had Raiders gear on. I was watching a documentary on the Raiders. Ice Cube produced it for ESPN. Came out about 10 years ago. And it said in the documentary, they were saying that, the NFL didn't really make much money off of its attire, off of like jerseys and sweats and shit like that. That's not where the NFL made its money. The NFL made its money off ticket sales. How did the NFL start making money off jerseys and shit like that? It was when NWA came out. When they came out with Straight Outta Compton and they started wearing Raider hats, they said NFL merchandising went from about a couple $1 million a year. They didn't make much money on that at all. To tens of millions to hundreds of $1 million within 2 seasons. Within two or three. Within 2 or 3 seasons, the NFL went from making anywhere from $500,000 to a couple $1 million a year off its merchandising to hundreds of millions of dollars by the time the 90s hit. To where now it's off the charts, the amount of money they make off merchandising. Baseball caps, the caps, the jerseys, the shoes, the attire. That's black culture. While black adults, I remember back in the 80s, in the 90s, while all the grown black people were running around talking about, man, black people need to go and put on some hard shoes. Stop wearing all them jerseys and shit. What the hell you doing? You need to put on a suit. Pull your britches up. Put on a button-down shirt. Niggas living in the past, the young black people, moving forward, the rest of the world saw this and said, Next thing you know, Foot Locker comes around. Next thing you know, Champ Sports goes from just selling cleats for football season to actual athletic clothes that people who are never going to step on the football field want to wear. Now the world, I was up in the Central Coast last month, just on a vacation chilling. I'm seeing old white men, basketball shorts and a t-shirt. Black culture. Something that had we recognized, we could be the ones opening up the boutique stores and the jersey and athletic stores. What if we were the ones opening that shit up back in the 90s? You think we'd be worried about some motherfucking equal employment opportunity? Like, if black people just recognize our own culture and be first on it, we should, if you think about it, we should be first on it. The culture is being born in your own goddamn house. These other places, Nike, Adidas, these motherfuckers pay hundreds of millions of dollars in research every year to research what's being born in your own house every day. What else is black culture? Free breakfast. It was the Black Panthers that came up with the free breakfast program that schools now take, that's got appropriated into American culture. That's black shit. Looking out for community, looking out for your neighbor. That's black culture. Look at this picture I have of Billie Holiday up. Our music is Billie Holiday. She had a song in 1937 called Strange Fruit, talking about the lynchings going on down south. She sang that song to her detriment. She was no longer allowed to work in clubs for years under her own name for singing about lynchings going on down south. That's black culture. Our women falling on the sword for the greater good, to bring attention to what's going on to the men, and sacrificing and being alongside the men in society. This is black culture. I know a lot of this shit's gotten disrupted since the 60s, since the 70s, when the government came in with their own versions of our shit and used our shit against us and broke us up. But this is black culture. Black culture is black women singing and standing up for the rights of black men. Black culture is black men creating children's food programs for the black children. Man, woman, child. That's black culture. Man taking care of child, woman taking care of man, man taking care of woman, woman taking care of child. That's the flow chart. That's our culture. I'm recognizing this because all this shit existed long before the government came in with these welfare programs. Like I said before, these welfare programs are what helped break up a lot of our culture. But our culture is still here. Give me some time. We're going to go back in history, but we also going to tie it to right now. We're going to bring it to right now. This is black culture. The Nicholas brothers. That's black culture. I encourage y'all to look up these motherfuckers here. The way they danced around. Chin up. Esteem about themselves, pride. That's black culture. Here's black culture too. Why do I have Louisiana fried chicken up? Because in every city in America, we see people who don't look like us bringing in food like this to our neighborhoods and selling it back to us. While we're begging the Democrats for equal opportunity employment, you literally have Asians getting black food. Louisiana fried chicken, that's just how niggas in the South fried chicken. These seafood bags, y'all be seeing these seafood bags, them restaurants. That's Southern cooking. That people can come from Asia, learn our culture, come into our neighborhoods, make our food, take that money back to their neighborhoods while we're begging for jobs. Are y'all starting to see the importance of culture? Recognizing your culture? Because recognizing your culture generally really is a fix-all to our problems. It's a fix-all to our political problems. Because when you know your culture, where it comes from, and how to make money off of it, you then only vote for politicians who are going to help further that agenda that you have centered around your culture. You're no longer looking for a politician to do anything for you. You're looking for a politician to do what you tell them to do. When you know your culture, you're not looking to other groups for a job. You're not going down to the Asian market saying, you need to hire a black person to work behind this counter. You saying, no, you need to raise the fuck up about my neighborhood selling our shit. And I'll sell this chicken. I'll sell these crab boiled bags or whatever. That's the importance of knowing your culture. Let's talk about car culture right now. Let's talk about cars. On the left, I have the 2003 Chrysler 300. On the right, I got the 2005 Chrysler 300. What did Chrysler do? Because Chrysler was a company that, I don't know if y'all remember, but in the early 2000s, they were like on the tailspin going out of business. After 9/11 hit and the economy took that dive in 2001, Chrysler, for the most part, was done. They was making ugly ass cars like that Chrysler 300 on your left. What did Daimler Chrysler do to rebound its image? Change how their cars work, change how their cars look, and get back on top as a auto manufacturer. They went to black culture. Dwan, what do you mean by they went to black culture? Yeah, they went to black culture. What is black? Why do I have these cars up here? Because it's a lot of young people that listen to my show. Salute to you young motherfuckers that listen to me. I appreciate y'all. A lot of y'all weren't born back then because there's a lot of people in their early 20s that listen. So if you're in your early 20s, you were born in the late 90s. So by the time you started recognizing cars, a lot of the shit had already happened. Well, if you go back to the early days, back in the days of cars, black people were the only people putting big rims on cars back in the 90s. Y'all remember the mid-90s when like Shaq was a big part of this. Shaq was a huge part of this. Shaq was on Dub magazine. He was always out there flossing his 20s on the Suburban. And they'd be like, Shaq, 20-inch rims, whoa. Those are big. Black people were the ones that came. It was our culture that made having big wheel wells on a car a thing. White society wasn't fucking with no rims. They didn't give a shit about big wheel wells. It was black people that would get cars back then, especially back then, shave down the wheel well and make it big enough for somebody to put some 20s on the car. And then as the late 90s came 22s, 24s, and in the early 2000s, them 26s started coming. Especially when Hummer came out with they shit. Really with it right here. When BMW what I have on the left here, I have I think that's like a 99 Escalade. When Escalade first came out, that's how they looked. And then in 2002, Escalade rechanged how they dug in their wheel wells. They made their wheel wells big enough to fit 24-inch rims. So niggas started buying them Escalades. Same thing with BMW. When they came out with that 2002 745i, they came with them big old wheel wells. So niggas could put rims on them. And all of these companies that were struggling in the 90s with their sales got a huge boost by designing their cars in a fashion that black American men designed our cars. And they took off back to being huge successes. Meanwhile, you have black folks, man, why black people gotta buy all the rims? Nigga, why the fuck ain't you opening a rim shop is my question. Black people do this shit because we dope. We're an opulent people. We're not slaves. Slave was a condition that we were in for a couple hundred years. We ain't no goddamn slaves. We created culture. We created society. Niggas love opulence. We're used to opulence. We're used to creating the newest, dopest shit. That's just what the fuck we do. What needs to happen in black culture is we need to recognize this. And then when we see these trends changing, we need to be the ones in front of it. If black people tomorrow, if young black men that are 21 years old started paper clipping, or if niggas that was 21 years old started getting a piece of glue and gluing pennies and nickels to their hubcaps, nigga, I'm investing in Elmer's glue tomorrow. Because in a couple years, that's going to be a thing. If young black men are taking their cars and they putting 6-inch rims and 30-inch tires on their cars, nigga, I'm investing in rubber. You're going to need a whole lot of rubber because these niggas like big tires and little rims now. So that means we're going to have to buy more rubber. Goodyear, Firestone, where you at? I ain't going to criticize them and say, well, shit, well, back in my day, we had way bigger rims and y'all just got these little ass tires. Stop that dumb nigga shit. All the young niggas is doing that? Okay, let me put my money behind the companies manufacturing what these little young niggas is into right now. Because the rest of the world is watching. The rest of the world is soon going to appropriate what these little niggas is doing. If these little niggas stop wearing Nike today and started wearing air fluffing stuff, I'm going to be finding out what air fluffing stuff's ticker symbol is. Fuck am I going to do sitting around here talking about, well, back shit. Y'all don't know about I don't know about these air fluffing stuff shit. Back in my day, we wore Reeboks. Shit. The Reebok, nigga, we had the Answers, the Cautions, the Iversons. We had the Reebok pumps. These little young niggas now with these fluffing stuffs. I can't stand these fluffing stuff. What these little young motherfucking fluff? What the fuck is a fluffing stuff? Then you turn on a TV commercial. You see them doing some shit that black people was doing 20 years ago. And then you be like, man, they always taking our stuff. Man, black people can't have nothing. We can't have nothing to ourselves. We can't have nothing. Nothing. Nigga, you got it. And it's in that room over there playing the video game. Not wanting to talk to you. I don't know why these kids don't ever want to talk to me. Because every time they open their mouth, you clowning them. You talking shit about them. You telling them what they do is wrong. You telling them how you were so right back in your day and how they so wrong in this day. That's why they don't want to talk to you, Cletus. You ain't talking about shit. Don't nobody want to talk to somebody who gon' every time they open their mouth, you criticizing them. Thank you, Alexander, for the Cash App donation. I appreciate it, brother. You think these kids want to keep talking to somebody who's always telling them that they wrong? And what makes it worse is black folks always telling these little niggas that they wrong. And for the most part, we ain't gave them shit to show that we did right. Other than create it and give it to somebody else to make money off of. We'd at least have a little bit of standing if we could talk that shit, then say, okay, yeah, now come work for my boutique shoe store that I opened up back in 1996 because I recognize this is what we do. And I've owned this store now for 25 years and I have a chain of them. Now I can criticize what you do, then say, hey, now go work at one of my stores and let me show you how it's done. If we had that kind of a culture, then it may work. But you can't diss a little nigga's culture, then say, okay, now go work for somebody else who makes their money off shit that I created when I was your age, but I was too goddamn dumb to invest in. That's why I don't talk too much shit about the young folks. I only talk shit about the young folks when they talk shit about me first. That's just anybody. You talk shit about me, I'm going after you. I'm going after you, your mama, your auntie, everybody. I like talking shit, so we gonna talk some shit. We gonna talk some shit, but don't get mad when my shit is better than your shit. But no, I don't really clown on the kids, because where am I gonna employ them? The company I got doesn't employ anybody. Now, I have put money in a lot of people's pockets. I have contracted people to work with me. I do that. And every chance I get, I contract with someone black. I do spend money with too, and do put money in black people's pockets. But I don't have a factory, is what I'm trying to say. If I had a factory that employed 1,000 people, or if I had a trade, if I was a plumber or something like that, and I had a whole trade program, then okay, you got a little bit of standing. But if you just going to work, just like these little telling these kids to go to work, you ain't got no goddamn standing to diss what they do. Period. We can't constructively criticize the children. You know, hey, little man, you doing it this way? It'd be better for you if you do it that way. Because we see the holes. We see certain things. Like, it's good to always talk to the kids and tell them, hey, you know, you're going in this direction. Hey, we need to go that direction. I think that it's a fork in the road. And when you get to that fork in the road, don't go right, because it's a pit of alligators if you go right. I've been down that road. Give that kind of advice. Yeah, be there for that. But when they just minding their own business, you just want to talk about what they doing. They kids sitting there playing a video game. Man, look at them. They just sitting there. Man, when I was a kid, well, motherfucker, if you want them to do something, give them something to do. Problem solved. They playing too many video games? All right, okay. Then go grab a chainsaw and take them to the woods and teach them how to cut down a tree and build a house then. Shit. Are they sitting around the house too much? All right. Teach them how to fucking fix a wall socket. Raise a little electrician. They sitting around too much? All right, cool. Teach them how to replace the fan in the ceiling. Give them something to do. All that criticizing is something, again, we're talking about the importance of black culture and recognizing our culture. Seeing what's wrong with our culture, seeing what's right with our culture. Building on what's right and letting that shit that's wrong go to the wayside. Let's talk about more black culture. Let's talk about the music of black culture. I'm doing this show kind of as an extension of the end of the last show that I did when I was talking about black culture. I was talking about it in the last broadcast that I did, and it made me be like, you know what? I gotta do a whole show on this, on the importance of black culture. Our music was so dope. And it still is when it's untouched. Like I always say, go back to the 70s. Go back to the 70s. For the best of our music, you have to go back to the 70s. The 1970s was the zenith of black music. It was the zenith of black music. Because that was before Clive Davis. That was before the White Paper Report. I've done a full broadcast on the White Paper Report like about a year ago. Go back and look it up. The shit only had like 100 views. Before niggas found out who I was, but I've always been spreading this information. But we were talking about, thank you, Photo Culture, for the Cash App donation. I appreciate you. We were talking about, you know, in 1978 there was the Harvard report. I have the book. The book doesn't go into great detail. It just kind of gives you an outside etching of it. But I remember listening to Dick Gregory talk about this. In 1978, they did a report to where they said, okay, by the year 2000, black music is going to be far, 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 far ahead of white music. In order to stop this, we must basically tinker with and dampen the vibration of black music. Yes, this really happened. CBS Records got together, Harvard University, and they studied us. So they said what they must do. This is what they did. And I'm going to give you just an outside, I'm going to give you a sketch of it. I remember reading this report in the earlier days of the internet around 2012, 2011. We got to remember, like around 2014, 2015 is when they started scrubbing the internet of a lot of shit. Before 2015, what was on the internet for the most part stayed on the internet. You can go back and find it really easy. By about 2015, they started scrubbing shit off the internet. Or they'll keep it up there and they'll change the keywords to where the keywords you would normally use to find things, you can't find them anymore. So you got to go through these scavenger hunts now to find what used to be before 2015 easily accessible on the internet. So I don't have the article right now because it's hell to find. But they talk about how black music, for the most part, is very positive. It's nurturing. Black people get lessons from their music. Black people learn from the music. They learn best through music. So it's in our best interest that we tamper with the music. I was having this conversation with my dad. I was talking to my dad about how great of a father he is. Me and my dad had this conversation just yesterday. My dad was talking to me about some moves he wished he would have made that he didn't make. And I told my dad, I was like, look, man, you ain't got to go back and wish you did nothing. It's other people who may have made more money than you. They may have had these things that got more accolades than you. But one thing about my dad and my parents, and both my mom and my dad, I was blessed growing up to not have to have my lifestyle altered through the turmoil of the 80s and the 90s, when all those companies were merging and so many black people lost jobs and had to downgrade their way of living through the 90s and the 2000s. My parents didn't go through that. My pops stayed employed up until the day he walked off the job. Same thing with my mom. They worked for the same companies. Literally my whole childhood, my parents worked the same jobs. And my parents put themselves in the position to leave things for us. Me, my brother, and my sister. And I was talking to my dad about that, and I was like, he said, you know what? He said, because I was like, I get a lot of wisdom from you. He said, you know what? I got a lot of my wisdom from the music. It was the music that I got a lot of my wisdom from. And it made sense my dad said that because I know my grandfather. My grandfather's still alive, 96 years old. Matter of fact, a month from March 6th, my grandfather gonna be 97 years old on March 6th, still living. I love my grandfather, man. But Poppy, man, my Poppy's ignorant as hell. I told you Poppy called me the big unit. He never even called me by my name as a kid. When I was 3, he gave me the name the big unit. Or the little fat motherfucker. The big unit is just what he called me when he was being nice. My other name was, hey, little fat motherfucker. My grandfather ain't. I remember when my grandfather met my now wife, back when she was my girlfriend. He didn't have no elderly wisdom to get. This was my grandfather's elderly wisdom. Now you got one. Make sure before you marry her, you always keep you one on the side. Don't ever just have one woman. Always have you one or two on the side. My grandfather, hardworking man, owns property, still owns it. He used to deliver chickens to Nat King Cole. I'm talking about my family's little bit of family history here too, because we talk to black culture. Because people got black culture fucked up. They think we all broken down, dilapidated, on welfare, don't get along, hating on each other. Fuck that shit. That's not a black culture. That's a condition that was placed on the black culture. Let me tell you what black culture is. My grandfather, and I'm going to circle this back around to the music, and my dad. Y'all know all my stories come back full circle. And if they don't, tell me in the chat room. But my grandfather back in the 1950s and the 1960s used to go up. He would wake up at 5 in the morning on the weekends, because during the week he worked. He on a burger stand. But on the weekends he would wake up and be out of the house by 5 a.m. to go up to Bakersfield, California. Bakersfield is about 2 hours north of LA. He'd go to Bakersfield, be in Bakersfield by 7 a.m., get a whole bunch of chickens, and he would have my dad ride with him and bring those chickens back to LA, and he would spend all day Saturday and Sunday selling those chickens fresh and to the people in the hood and also into the stars. His clients were he had Orson Welles as a client. Katharine Hepburn was a client of his. Nat King Cole was one of his favorite clients. But he sold to the white folks, but he also sold to the black people. But for the black people, he gave a little extra care. For Nat King Cole, my grandfather would bring the chickens in the house, cut them, clean them, and get everything prepped for Nat's for Nat's chef to then, or for Nat King Cole to cook the chickens. Black people have always had this community. People get us fucked up when they say, "Oh, life without a Mexican." No, and there's no disrespect to the Mexicans, but hell, if you take it as disrespect, that means you probably look at me with disrespect, because anybody with respect in their heart wouldn't take anything that I say with disrespect, because there's nothing but love in my heart and nothing but the desire to preach and tell the truth. So if anyone takes what I have to say with disrespect, that's just a projection of what's on your heart, not what's on mine. Well, anyway, the Mexicans just came in the 60s and 70s to undercut the pay. People like my grandfather wasn't going to keep going out to Bakersfield on Saturday doing the fuck he did for the amount of money he was making. The price started to get higher because black people started to make more money, so the price of business went up. So America imported other groups to undercut the price of business so they can then go back to charging the slave labor wages that they want to charge. But don't come over here to America saying black people are just lazy and doing the jobs that you're doing, the jobs that black people don't want. No, my he's a living example. No, we do the jobs. We just gonna do the fucking jobs for the right fucking pay. But I was talking about my grandfather. My grandfather was born in 1924. He grew up during the worst of Jim Crow. Like I said, during the worst of Jim Crow. Jim Crow, the reason why the civil rights movement really took off the way it did in 1955 was because of the conditions leading up to 1955. My grandfather had to leave Grace, Mississippi, because he saw his uncle murdered by the white supremacists in town. And he came to LA to live with his other uncle, who was already out here. And my grandfather, because of the conditions and because of the things that he saw growing up in Jim Crow America, he was very hardened. Very hardened. Didn't have much space for people. Talked a lot of shit. Ran every friend away he had. Because he was just hardened. Because of the hard shit that he had to deal with. Being a man of Jim Crow. You gotta realize, my grandfather was in his 30s by the time these civil rights laws came. In his 40s, as a matter of fact. 1964 was when the civil rights laws were passed. 1964. My grandfather was 40. I'm not even my grandfather's age yet, of the age he was when Dr. King and those people got civil rights legislation signed. My grandfather's grandparents were slaves. And my grandfather's still alive. That's how close all this shit is for Black Americans. And recognizing, why am I saying this? I'm talking about, again, why some of the downside of our culture is what it is. They always want to talk about the toxic masculinity and how hard, how mean Black men at that time were. Yeah, they were very mean. Look at the shit they had to deal with. When my grandfather was a child, when he was a teenager, he had to see Black men get tied and bound by a horse, one horse tied to his neck, the other horse tied to the feet, and ripping that man apart in half. That's the shit my grandfather had to see with his own fucking eyes. And he's still alive. He was 40 when civil rights legislation passed. You don't think he was hardened by then? So he passed down to my father very hardened, very stringent, very strict principles. Very tough, very downright hard-nosed living principles. I appreciate the love, Lace. I am blessed. I got lifelong friends that I've been knowing since I was 3. Married to a wife that I've been knowing since we was in middle school. I've been knowing my wife now. Shit. Since 1994. 94 is when we met. I've been knowing my wife almost 20 years. My grandfather's still alive. I'm very blessed. Family intact. My parents still married. My wife's parents still married. My sister married. My brother's a great father to his daughter. I don't know this trash, degenerate Black society that they show on TV. I don't recognize that. It's not a part of me. Not a part of who I am. Not a part of my makeup. That's very foreign to me. So I was asking my dad, I was talking to my dad just yesterday again about how much of a great father he was and still is. And how he's a great granddad to my nieces. I be seeing the shit my dad do to my nieces. I be like, you didn't do none of that shit with us. My dad was like, it was the music. It was the OJs. He brought up this song in particular, Message in Our Music. That was one of the great songs. We've got a message in our music. Whoa, 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 whoa. Shooby-dooby-doo, shooby-dooby-doo, doo-doo-doo. Black music is it's loving, it's family, it's culture, it's fun, it's caring, it's sharing. His message. My dad loves talking about I love talking about this the music. He always talks about it was Curtis Mayfield. It was Smokey Robinson that really taught him how to show love to me as a son. And to my wife, and to my mother as his husband, as her husband. My dad always talks about how, it was Curtis Mayfield and James Brown A lot of black culture got preserved in 70s music. Especially when you look at Gamble and Huff. You can't listen to a Gamble and Huff song without feeling like you're on top of the world. Whether it be Gamble and Huff played out through Teddy Pendergrass, the Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. Where are all my friends? Listen to their B-sides. Nigga, the OJs through Gamble and Huff, the Jackson 5 through Gamble and Huff, Let Me Show You the Way to Go. That's Gamble and Huff. You can't listen to Gamble and Huff and not be a better person. You can't listen to Earth, and Fire and not be a better person. You can't listen to Frankie Beverly and Maze and not be a better person. This is black culture. Our music, when it's untampered with, is a loving form of music. It's information. It's game. It's philosophy. It's life told to you through song. This is real black culture. This is black culture. Parliament Funkadelic. Turn this motherfucker out on the one. This is black culture. God damn it. The reason why people ask, okay, Dwan, why do you say 70s music was the greatest era of black music ever? Here's why. In 70s music, you had all of the elements of all of the years recorded music prior that came in to one genre, one era. You had the doo-wop sound. Doo-wop is your group music, your trios, your quartets, Temptations, Four Tops, Dramatics, combined with orchestral arrangements. Listen to a Barry White song. Barry White's orchestral arrangements are doper than Mozart. He's the Mozart of our fucking era. You feel like you need to wear a tuxedo when you listen to Barry White music. Baby Blues. Isaac Hayes. Those long, drawn-out intros that he had. Horns, bass, drums, keys, singing. All coming together to uplift us as a people. The United States of America saw that. Circle back to my point about the white paper report, the Harvard study done by the Columbia report. They said we have to slow down the vibration of black music. So what are we going to do? What they did was they separated the top producers from the top acts. They gave people a lot of money, the best producers of the time. They gave them a lot of money to stop producing the black artists. And I've broken this down before. People who listen to me regularly, you've heard me say this before. I'm just going to sprinkle around it. I'm not going to go too deep into it. I've talked about this very deep on other broadcasts before. So y'all can go back and listen to past broadcasts if you want to hear me go real deep on this. But they put Maurice White with people like Barbra Streisand. They put Gamble and Huff with White Axe. Removed them from Teddy Pendergrass. Removed them from the OJs. They stopped allowing and releasing albums that had messages in the music. By the time the 80s came, they started releasing music that didn't have any kind of a, They could talk about love or whatever, but they couldn't really talk about, you know, anything militant. That was done on purpose, because they know black people, we get our message in the music. That's where the message is. They took the live instruments away. That's why if you listen to music up until 1979, you basically everything was only live. Stevie Wonder brought in, you know, when he did Songs in the Key of Life, was it Village Ghetto Land? The song he has with the violins, that was done on the synthesizer. That was the first song that was done. That is that Village Ghetto Land? Would you like to come with me? I can't sing for shit. Down my ghetto street. That violin arrangement, that was actually done on the keys, because that's when the companies came. They said we're gonna bring this non-live sound in. They brought it in through Stevie Wonder, because Stevie Wonder was blind. They were like, hey, you can't see. Why don't you be the one that play this shit? And he was also one of the dopest, still is the dopest musicians on earth. So who better to play your shit than Stevie Wonder? So Stevie Wonder started to work in the synthetic sound. But before 1979, you didn't hear too much of that sound. It was all live. By the time you get to the 80s, you see Rick James had to leave change things up with the Stone City Band. The Gap Band cut down a lot of his band. The Cameo cut his band out and went to that more, when they did Word Up, they went to more of that plastic sound. That sound was brought in because live music played from the heart speaks to us as a culture, speaks to us as a people. So when you bring in that phony plastic sound, it dampens the means of communication. That's why I'm doing my part. I got back on the drums and I recorded. I was in the studio 11 hours on Sunday recording sample packs. I got 11 hours. I got about a good 4 hours of live drum sample loops that I'll be putting out like every month. I'm tired of not hearing live drums, so instead of goddamn talking about it, I'm being about it. I said, fuck it, I'm gonna get my ass back in the studio and play live drum samples, so when people want to play their music, they ain't gotta go back and play no fucking keyboard drums. They can go and sample some live shit from my soulful ass. Be the change you want to seek, people. So, live drums, live instrumentation, it means something to us. That's why they call the organ an organ. What do you have inside of you? Organs. Strings represent the wind. When you have strings in music, it moves like the wind. Music is supposed to have all of the elements of nature involved in the music. You have your woodwinds that vibrate them chakras. You got your brasses, trumpets, trombone, your woodwind, saxophone. You got your bass. Correlate to that root chakra. Get your body. That's why as a black person, you hear someone thumping that bass at 92 beats a minute, and then a drummer come in with that pocket, you can't do nothing but dance. But they taking the best of our culture, the live of that, and then they done it into this plastic, phony, fake sound. That you're gonna still bob your head to, but it ain't got none of the soul in it that can help you live your life. And I'm not saying this to be critical. I'm saying this to my young musicians coming up. Be aware of the instrumentation that you use in your music, because the instrumentation matters. Instrumentation speaks to us culturally. You can send good vibrations, you can send bad vibrations. Do you guys know that when Clive Davis came up with when he signed Whitney Houston, and I saw this on Whitney Houston's own documentary. I watch a fuck ton of documentaries. Clive Davis said, I don't, because Whitney Houston's influenced Shaka Khan. Whitney Houston wanted to sing more like what Shaka Khan was singing. Funk, soul, funk. But it was Clive Davis that directed the producers of Whitney Houston's music Gambling Huff did some of their stuff, did some of her stuff too. He said, I don't want her doing any of that George Clinton funk shit. Don't do any, I will not release anything that she does funk. Why would he release anything funk? Because Clive Davis knew that Whitney Houston would deliver funk better than anybody who ever delivered funk before, and it would be catchy, and it would speak to black people at our soul. So he made sure to keep Whitney Houston on that powder puff, I'm saving all my love for you vibration. Do you know that when she did that song, I'm Your Baby Tonight in 1990, she had to fight tooth and nail to release that song because that was her third album. She had already done 2 albums that was powder puff kind of music, and she had to fight like the Dickens in order to release one song that was funky, I'm Your Baby Tonight. They're very sensitive to us connecting with ourselves at a soul vibrational level. You're right, Magnetic. That's why Whitney's music don't slap. It was intended to be that way. Because of racism, we never got to hear the real Whitney Houston. Unfortunately. We never got to hear who Whitney Houston really was. Hold on.
I'm ready.
Okay.
All right.
I'm about to send y'all on a quick 2-minute break. We about to go on a 2-minute break. Stay here, keep running your mouth in the chat room. And we gonna get it in 2 minutes. I'm about to play some dope ass music by Duncan Pender Hughes. Basically, I'm just gonna play the fuck I'm playing real low. Play it loud. I'll be back in 3 minutes.
1981.
All right, I'm back. Thank y'all for that. Shit. My wife coming home with a whole bunch of shit. I gotta carry the heavy shit. I don't believe in women carrying heavy shit, fellas. You do what you want to do with yours, but with mine, I don't let my wife carry heavy shit. I do that. I don't believe in all that. Oh my God, I got a strong black woman. No, goddamn it, I'm strong. She gets to be a woman. I like my wife being feminine. I'll handle the man shit. Back to what we were talking about. This is something that Maurice White said that I saw. Shouts out to my boy Ruben Warren. Y'all seen Ruben on this show before. He sent me this, and I seen a whole bunch of Maurice White interviews, and I've never seen this quote. I'm still looking for the interview. But I have heard this interview, this clip. I want the full interview. Because right now you have a lot of people trying to steal our culture. A lot of people saying that hip hop is something that has roots in the Caribbean and Latin America and shit like that. This is something Maurice White said. Rap music is a tradition that carried on for a long time. It started in the 1930s with DJs. It's an art. And it's an art form that is something been around, and even a lot of people think is brand new. This is an interview with him from back in 1990, by the way. A lot of people, basically what he's saying, a lot of people think it's brand new. And he's basically saying this shit's been around since the 30s. Even before that. But that's Maurice White from Earth and Fire back in 1990. Talking about, rap music and its roots here in the United States of America. And hip hop in general. Why am I bringing up hip hop? Because I'm going to finish talking about with Whitney Houston and the White Paper reports. Basically with the White Paper report, they basically successfully got a stranglehold onto black music, black artists. And on the R&B side of it, it's devolved to where people will listen to these motherfuckers. They'll listen to Rihanna, and these motherfuckers is out now and call that R&B music. And it's just basically a dumbed down version, very plastic, very inauthentic version of what we had back in the 70s. The shit that we hear on the radio, because I'm not dissing all today's music, it's a lot of dope artists out today, but you gotta find them motherfuckers on Spotify. As far as people getting played on the radio, it's a dumbed down, washed up version of our shit that if you look at the people who are on the charts, most of them ain't even from the United States of America. They're from Britain, they're from the Caribbean, they're from other parts of the world, or their parents are from there, they're not really rooted here. The radio, Cardi B, they basically play an imitation of our music. What we're dealing with right now is the other end of what they set out to do back in 1978. That's what we're listening to when we listen to today's music. Be very sure the shit that comes on today on the radio today, that's not a culture, a product that came from us naturally. That's not a natural product of Black America. The natural product of Black America is what we saw back in the 70s and before the 70s. What we've seen since is a genetically modified version of black culture, and it's been genetically modified by the poisonous people who've always put poison within our culture. Our good music still lives on. Adrian Young, the internet, that group, Thundercat, Anderson .Paak, Robert Glasper. We still got the real shit out there. Erykah Badu. But that's not what gets played on the radio. Terrace Martin. And a host of other people. That's not what's played as black culture. What's played is an imitation of black culture. A similar thing happened back in the early 90s with hip hop. How authentic hip hop was anything before 1993. Shit that hit the radio post 1993, not all of it, but a majority of it, is what became commercial. And they got a full stranglehold on commercial hip hop by the year 2000. The whole bling era, the whole era Jay-Z came up in. Jay-Z came up in the worst era of hip hop. Hip hop is actually better now than it was in the early 2000s. Yeah, I said it. Yes, I said it. Because early 2000s, they wasn't talking about shit. And that's the era that Jay-Z dominated. Jay-Z did not dominate. Jay-Z was around in the early 90s, in the mid 90s too. Back when the real niggas in hip hop were still around. DMX, Nas, Q, Digital Underground. When there was a host of, there's a lot of competition in real hip hop. Jay-Z was around then too. He just wasn't cutting through. Jay-Z didn't start cutting through until the early 2000s when the record industry stopped signing all those dope ass music acts from the 90s that never fell off. They just never got a shot at a CD, at making a CD. But I'll go into that. I want to do a full broadcast on when hip hop was undermined. I got to get some more hip hop heads on here. We're gonna do a panel on that pretty soon. Yeah, you're right. Bruno ain't nothing but an imitation, dumbed down version of the Gap Band. That's all Bruno Mars is. So it's a wannabe cameo Gap Band. It's his sound. Wannabe Daz Band. Jay-Z's always been around. You're right. I'm glad I got smart people in this chat room. Ain't no Jay-Z dick stains up in here. Yeah, Jay-Z came in and Jay-Z was an old rapper by then that came in and dominated a weak era of hip-hop with bullshit ass music. And what Jay-Z offended me was when he said, I could rap like Common Sense, but basically told you, look, I could give you niggas a game, but I'm about the money. That's what Jay-Z told me on his own record. So I'm not a fan of the nigga. Y'all can be, I'm not. You mean tell me you had the keys to the kingdom this whole time and you didn't share them because making a few million wasn't enough? You want to make 10 million instead of making 6 million? Hell, if you the smart businessman you say you are, you would have flipped. Nas gave us the real, then flipped his money on the tech industry and made his big money over there. You purposely left your people in the dark and told them in the early 2000s, back when black people still owned the hood in 2001, 2005, you was telling them to spend their money on debauchery and bullshit. Back when black people could still buy a house on the block for a couple $100,000. Instead of saying buy the block when niggas could afford the block, you were saying buy bullshit. Now niggas are being successfully gentrified. You want to come up with a grown-up album. The fuck out of here, Jay-Z. I don't respect it. A lot of niggas do. I don't. Because you told me with your own words that you knew better. We're not dealing with a person who didn't know better. You told me back in 2001 that you could drop sense like Common Sense. That's what you said, Jay-Z. But you a shield for these boys, for these people. And instead of using your influence to tell people to buy the block, then all of a sudden in 2009 when you come out with that, you all want to say, 30's the new 20, or I'm a grown up now. Nigga, you been grown for 20 years by the time you wrote that album. Nigga, you been grown. Oh, now you see black people that lost all their money, credit ain't as available as it was. Now all of a sudden you grew up. I want to give a little bit of more context to the young people listening. When I was showing those pictures a little bit earlier with the cars, the reason why you saw the cars like that, the reason why black people had these cars like this was because in the early 2000s, credit was easy. Home equity was rising. I remember I was doing loans back then. They had a house. They owed $60,000 on the house, $80,000 on that house. Came to people like me when I worked at Washington Mutual Bank. Oh, your house is now worth $300,000. You can pull up to 80% of the equity out. So what did they do? They pulled equity out, home equity line of credits, $100,000. Bought that BMW 745 with them rims. Bought a bunch of dumb shit. Now they can't afford to live in the neighborhood because they're using the money, doing a bunch of dumb shit with the money. The rims wasn't dumb. Buying the rims wasn't dumb. Not investing in rims was the dumb part. Shit, buy the rims, buy the cars, but shit, invest in your culture. Black people weren't investing in it. The credit was easy. Credit was free. Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, you another one. Tell them black people to do dumb shit. Kanye had some, at least Kanye would mix it up back then. He would tell you some real shit and then tell you some dumb shit. At least he did a little bit of both. At least Kanye would tell you some real shit. But that was the era back then. And these companies heard everything you niggas was rapping about, redesigned their cars to fit what Jay-Z was rapping about, getting the biggest rims. And we got led down a path of nonsense by a nigga who knew better. That's the insulting part about it. Black people got led down that road by a nigga who knew better, according to his own words. Machine said, "I'm trying to teach myself 7779311." Yeah, that song. That's on the drum set. That's a song right there for your ass to play. Hit the like button, share. But yeah, no, we gotta recognize black culture. We got to recognize black culture. Like this here. Charlie Parker. I always use him as an example when it comes to black people not recognizing our culture. When Charlie Parker came out of Kansas City with that bebop, that hard bop style of jazz, the old people who were more so into the slower Louis Armstrong, New Orleans style of jazz said, "Oh, what's all that beepity boppity boopity bop? That ain't real music." The same thing old niggas did in the 80s when hip hop came around. The same thing a lot of old niggas are doing right now. Charlie Parker changed music, changed the world with his sound. But instead of black people getting ahead of it, the older black people who had the money to invest in them, they didn't do it. They criticized him. So white folks make the money off of what he did. Like they're doing right now with hip hop. At some point, people, we got to stop making the same mistakes over and over and over and over again. And the key to not making those mistakes over and over and over again is recognizing your history. When you recognize where you come from, when you recognize all that, you then recognize where you're going. You then recognize what's coming next. You don't have to wait on them. When you know your history, when you know where you come from, you see it happening and unfolding in front of you in real time. That's the importance of understanding your culture, understanding your history. People can't shit on you and then shit on your culture and then sell it back to you when you know what it is. Talk about some more black culture. This is also black culture. John Horse. Y'all know who John Horse is? John Horse is black culture. I'm not gonna give up too much because I have a whole matter of fact, I'm filming something on John Horse right now, so I can give you guys a snippet. I'm just gonna give you guys a little bit because I'm filming something on him right now. Him and Bass Reeves. So I'll give y'all a little bit. I'm not gonna go too much into detail on who John Horse was because he's a very dope motherfucker. But John Horse is somebody who fought the American military to a standstill. He beat the American military's ass so bad, it made them sign Jessup's proclamation. Jessup's proclamation was long before the Emancipation Proclamation. Jessup's proclamation was basically the military saying, Jessup, like, look, man, we can't beat this nigga, so why don't you just sign this motherfucking land, this letter, this proclamation, and move your ass to Oklahoma. I'm tired of fighting. You free. Because they was having those wars down in those Seminole Wars to go ahead and capture the black people who escaped slavery. John Horse beat the dog shit out them and said, nah, y'all ain't capturing shit. And then when they started fucking with him in Oklahoma, he moved his ass down to Mexico and started beating Mexico's ass. People coming in trying to fuck with the black people in Mexico. That's black culture. Black culture is standing up to this oppressive regime. Not taking no shit. Bass Reeves. He's black culture. Arrested over 3,000 people in the Oklahoma territory. He beat his slave master's ass. That's how he got his freedom. He didn't say, no, sir, master, sir, can you please give me my freedom? No. His slave masters got to talking sideways, got to talking crazy. So Bass Reeves whooped his ass and left. That was it. End of slavery. Slavery's over. I whoop your ass. I'm gone. This is black culture. Subservience is an aspect of our culture that was beat into us. But every nigga didn't get the message. Bass Reeves was one of them. You people listening, y'all one of them. He right. Bass Reeves even bagged his own son. He said, son, you fucked up. Principles is principles. You going to jail. Bass Reeves arrested the preacher that baptized him. Think about that. I wish, man, all the preachers that have lied to us, imagine what if you had the power to arrest that motherfucker? Bass Reeves arrested the preacher that baptized him for doing some bullshit later on in life. You right, Harvey Wolf. We have to do what they do. Sell our shit back to them. Sell our shit to them. We need to stop giving the shit away. We need to sell the shit. My drum sample packs ain't free, goddammit. They cost money. You want these soulful drums on your music? You're gonna have to pay a soulful nigga. Yep, the Lone Ranger. That's who Bass Reeves was. So again, black people, it's important that we recognize our culture. Once we recognize who we are they can't take nothing from us. They can't take what we do and sell it back to us. And once we know who we are, we then know how to vote. And that's if we choose to vote at all. You can't sell black people on, I'm going to put Harriet Tubman on a $20 bill and that'd be good enough, while other groups actually get $20 bills. The only group that can be sold that getting a face of someone who looked like you on the dollar bill is more valuable than actually putting those dollar bills in your pockets is a group of people who don't recognize, don't appreciate, and don't understand their culture. When you understand your culture, you be like, man, fuck a face, give me the 20s. And the only face I'm worried about on a 20 is a smile on my face when I get these 20s. That's the only face that I'm worried about. That's what the importance of understanding and recognizing your culture is. We have a culture of love, a culture of kindness. Black people, we so kind. We so giving. You gotta recognize that. And we need to stay kind. We need to stay giving. But be that with one another. We exercise that part of our culture and we give it to other groups, but we don't give it to ourselves. These are the solutions. People always ask, why are you talking? So what are we going to do? What are you going to do? What do we do? What do we do? We be the solution. We take the good aspects of our culture, the kindness, the loving, the messages, the caring, the sharing, and we give that to one another. Because we're already giving it, but we only give it to white folks. We give it to Asians. We'll say, I'm not going to support a black-owned business if it got bad customer service, and then walk right in the liquor store and get cussed out by the Asian store owner, and you still buy that Pepsi and 2 Snicker bars. Don't say shit about being treated right by them when you go into their little high-end stores and buy their little bullshit high-end products. Matter of fact, this is what these dumb niggas think. And these are the ones that we gotta fucking stay away from. Man, I walked up in that store, they saw me, they didn't think I could afford anything in there. So I bought 2. These dumb niggas will buy 2 product bags in the product store just to show the salesperson they got the money, and then turn around and say, when I shop black owned, I better get treated like royalty or I'm gonna complain like everybody. That's the dumb shit we gotta get rid of. If a black place gives bad customer service, I'll give them a second chance. And they still keep giving bad customer service, I just don't go back to them. I'll send them a message sometimes I won't. But I'll just keep pushing. Because black people have the right to suck too. Every black business ain't gonna be great, ain't gonna be good. Every black business ain't gonna roll out the red carpet for you. Get off your fucking ego anyway. Black businesses, it should be upon us that do run black businesses to roll out the red carpet for my customers. I know me, I treat all my customers good, but I know personally when I have a black customer, I treat them twice as good. And I treat everybody good. I was the same way when I used to drive Uber. If I get a black person in my car, I give them extra service, especially a black woman. A matter of fact, I'll pull in your driveway to let you out. I give my people, if I see when I would see my young black men, the young brothers in there, I'd always try to say something encouraging to them. They get in my car when I used to drive Uber. Man, stay up. Keep doing you. Greatness is greatness on the inside of you, young fella. Live it. I was in Target yesterday, and there was a young black cashier. And I guess he had left something back in the break room, and one of his Mexican employees came and kind of threw it at him, like, don't be doing that. And I told the young man, look, they'll smile at in your face. These other groups that come in, you think y'all all the same. They see you as somebody that got a job that their uncle can use. As a young black man, make sure that you on top of your shit. You can't afford to be losing stuff at work and be late and be messing up, because these motherfuckers is out to get you. I told the young man, the world don't fuck with you. You gotta fuck with yourself. You gotta be on your shit. Be on your shit. I always give young niggas that message. Be on your shit. Handle your shit. The world don't give a fuck about you. Handle your shit. And the young man thanked me, because he was like, I have been recognizing certain things about that dude. I thought we was cool. I was like, I see the body language right now. He ain't fucking with you. He looking for one thing over you so he can get your little young black ass out. Have messages and words of encouragement for young people. Don't criticize them too much. Young black people overly criticized, man, and underpraised and overexploited. Young black kids, the youngsters, they're exploited. See, a white girl can say, I was young and naive, and be 18 years old. And the world will say, oh. A young black man can be 14 and be friends with somebody who committed a crime. And the world be like, well, you shouldn't have knew that nigga. 20 years. This isn't hyperbole. This is fact. This is truth. This shit really happens. Young black people in their teens, young black boys 14, 15, 16 get tried as adults and put in prison, oftentimes for nonviolent crimes. Young black people don't have the excuse of ignorance. They can't use ignorance as an excuse. They can't use I didn't know any better as an excuse. The world is punitive to these young motherfuckers. The world can't stand them. So when a young black person sees an older black person, they should be relaxed to know that that older black person is going to encourage them, be kind to them. And if they need to be corrected, do it in a respectful manner. And some of these little young niggas is just ignorant. You can't say nothing to them. For the little young ignorant motherfuckers, y'all out there too, I just don't say nothing to them. I feel they'll learn when they're ready to learn. Everybody ain't ready to learn. Everybody ain't ready to mature yet. They'll learn in their own time. I just don't say nothing to them. I'm not here acting like these little young niggas are all angels. It's a lot of little devils walking around this motherfucker. I know. They're a little bit too evil. I just stay the fuck away from them. Don't say nothing to them at all. But when I walk down the street, I see these youngsters kind of get that look. They kind of look up at me now that I'm a little older, coming up on 40. And they kind of want to say something they don't, because they just, in their own world, they got their phone on, their music on. Because they've checked out, because all the old people ain't got nothing but bad things to say about them and criticism. Why wouldn't they check out? One thing we need to change in our culture is the acknowledgement and the encouragement of our youth. Encourage them. Show them some love. If you don't have any love in your heart to show them, don't say anything at all. Be with one another the way we want others to treat us. Like what Dr. John Henry Clark says, black people don't owe anybody anything but an ass whooping. We spend too much time worried about these other groups' relationship with us instead of being worried about our relationship with us. If we started treating white people the way we treat black people and treat black people the way we treat white people, all of our problems will be solved overnight. You take that how you take it. You could take that however you take it. But I promise you, if we start treating white people the way we treat black people, And not just white people, other groups, non-white groups. Because when I say white, that's any group that doesn't identify as Black American. Because all them other groups put white on their fucking driver's license, I promise you. They either put white or Asians on their driver's license. They ain't putting native, they ain't putting black. So when I say white, I'm talking about all these people. Treat each other the way we treat them. I'm gonna do a full broadcast pretty soon on how to recognize a liberal white supremacist. And also we're gonna do a broadcast on non-white, non-black, but non-white white supremacists. We're gonna do a broadcast on that too, recognizing non-white white supremacists. We're gonna have all this shit during Black History Month because all of this matters. It all ties into Black History Month. Black History Month is a month that was created by Carter G. Woodson to celebrate Black American history, foundational Black American history to be specific. It was created before America started allowing other Black immigrants into the United States of America in large numbers. Let's just bring clarity to it. Because you have people trying to add Kamala to Black history and shit like that. Well, no, she's not. She ain't. Even if you want to classify her as Black, Black History Month wasn't meant to celebrate her. It was meant to celebrate all the Black people that came before that didn't get their due recognition. Bass Reeves, John Horace, Ida B. Wells, Elijah McCoy, Carter G. Woodson, Benjamin Banneker, William Leo Hansberry. That's what Black History Month was created to celebrate. Because Black people have a damn dope culture here that we've built for ourselves in America. We've constructed a dope-ass culture. And we need to recognize it. Black History Month is a time that America, quote-unquote, them recognize it. But Black history is something that I believe in recognizing all year long. But while we're here, it's on us to recognize our culture. You are listening to Hotepish, Intelligent Ish Talk, Intelligent Shit Talk. Get your t-shirts now, hotepish.com/apparel, coffee mugs, all that shit. And remember this, I'm about to get up out of here. Thank y'all for listening. And I want y'all to remember this. There are no perfect messages. I'll take that back. Woo! I almost fucked up my own quote. There are no perfect messengers. Only perfect messages for those who are willing to listen. My name is Dwan B. Follow me on all my social media and all that good shit. We out.